In November of 2018, the World Federation of Therapeutic Communities decided to have its 2019 board meeting in Thessaloniki, Greece, in conjunction with the European Federation of Therapeutic Communities biannual conference. The World Federation also wanted to host a training institute and asked Naya Arbiter, Rowdy Yates, Kathleen Yates, and Rod Mullen to be trainers for the two-day institute under the auspices of Aristotle University of Thessaloniki. The institute was held on September 17th and 18th with 60 participants from across Europe, the Middle East, and Australia. The focus of the institute was for participants to have a better understanding of the therapeutic community modality from several perspectives. This series of edited videos captures some of the training provided and some of the interactions of the participants with the trainers.
What are some of the what did you notice about people when you were talking about role models? Were there some things in common when you were talking about people that were credible to you?
Families, our fathers devoted to sick mothers, and that sort of love that they gave, unconditional, and all the skills that they had to adopt with playing father and mother times.
Sure. So one of the things about one element of a credible role model in your conversation was devotion, which you can also talk about it in terms of just being incredibly authentic and real. It wasn't intellectual, it was from the heart. Some other aspects of a credible role model.
Similar, because one role model was the grandmother, the other one was the little sister. Very fun. But the main thing was that they are doing, or were doing, things that we wanted to do ourselves. We looked at them, and they had skills and doing things that were locked up in us, but we admired them for doing these things authentically.
Okay. And fostering, in both instances, even though there are different ends of the spectrum within the family, there's an element of inspiration to create some movement. So you have credible role models that are devoted, you have role models that do something that inspire another individual to create movement in their own life. Okay? Yes?
Very much linked in that. I saw presence here able to receive and act on what's received.
Right. So there's an element with role models of credible role models of giving a gift. So you have devotion, inspiration for movement, and a gift giving. Because the thing about someone that's a good role model, you don't necessarily always have the sensation, well, they're showing me this, but then they want something back. It's this kind of a free demonstration that you get that touches us. It's good. Anybody else?
The similarity between my role model and my buddy's model was he got a cousin and me also, but for role model that facing the goal, chasing the goal.
Right.
Proper facing and chasing the goal, and the power that breaks the walls.
Right.
Reaching it.
So there's overcoming, role models have the ability to overcome obstacles.
Yes, overcome obstacles.
Overcome obstacles and show you, hey, there's a pathway for doing this. Take these steps and you too can get somewhere.
Probably what I understand is that they get their own path.
Right.
Making their own path.
Right. Their own way.
No following somewhere.
Sure. So there's possibility.
Yeah.
So when you can look at all these things in a therapeutic community as different vocabularies. For instance, everyone might have a slightly different vocabulary of what's meaningful to them as a role model. I've been doing a survey recently with about 400 or 500 people in different agencies. And one of the questions on the survey is, it has to do with people's personal vocabulary of affirmation. You know, what makes you feel validated? For some people, it's if somebody keeps a promise to them. For some people, validation is if someone writes them a note. For some people, validation might be, if someone says something to them in public. And for somebody else, saying something to them in public might be so embarrassing that it just destroys them and it's not validating. So in the TC, as we start looking at the tapestry of how do we build community, it's very useful to listen to each other and our students and tease out the different vocabularies. And just look in this room, just some of the different vocabularies around credible role models. Devotion, making your own path, overcoming obstacles, the ability to inspire. And for each of us, it's slightly different, but there's a thread of humanity of that particular tapestry. Just like with sanctuary, Roddy was talking about how incredibly important sanctuary is. Like for me at 6 years old, my idea of the best sanctuary in the world is having the tablecloth on the dining room table, getting underneath it, and being with the cats. That was my idea of what was safe. It wasn't church, it wasn't the synagogue, it wasn't, being out in the woods. I liked being in a small spot with my cats. Now that might be very different for somebody else who really dislikes cats and has allergies to cats. But it's important to tease these things out because that's how we begin to know our students, and it gives us more verses to the song. So, when you learn how somebody feels validated, you think, okay, maybe that person's been in prison, they've been in isolation for a long time. It's too much to be in a public meeting. But a note on their bed, hey, I saw what you did today, and, or a lot of times I'll write a note with a friend, with a coworker, so then it's a community note. Robin and I both want to tell you how much we respect what you did taking in that new person. So then it's not just a one person to one person, it's a couple of people, and that can be very validating. See what I mean? So it's just something to tease out. Okay, teachers that teach, a special teacher that you had, what are some of the elements that you saw in terms of teachers? Anybody in your conversation? Who had a favorite teacher? Okay. What was your favorite teacher like?
Well, I think a lot of it came from being in conflict with my father because he was very, how you say that? Authoritarian.
Authoritarian?
Like an authority.
Authoritarian.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. Yeah.
And a lot of my problems with teachers were dealing with this authority conflict.
Sure.
So, and he was very good at not going into this conflict. And just, I had the best grades with him, and
sure.
He really could, he could communicate with me.
It helps us become more, if we make ourselves our own research projects sometimes, and we do our own research on things that we may be teaching, it's very helpful because it helps us develop a wider reservoir, a wider body of water of empathy, if you will. So a good teacher, and that's when we talk in terms of moral development, teachers that teach one level above, so often it's giving somebody something that they can hang on to. That's a reference point, or it's like a lighthouse, and it illuminates, and it's a boundary. Okay, if this was, my son, or I sometimes tell our faculty when they get incredibly frustrated working in prison with somebody, I'll say, just remember that, think about how many people that person represents. Do they have children? Do they have a mother that is waiting for them? Do they have a wife that they've abandoned? Do they and so forth and so on? Because usually every person incarcerated has somewhere from 5 to 20 people that in some way they've brought with them. And when they have a transformation growth experience, you can start moving a whole family system. So it's a really lovely thing. Okay, 2 questions. What's the time in your life when you really knew you needed to learn something? Okay, and it can be different kinds of things. It can be In my own life, when I was 26, I had cancer, and I had a doctor tell me I was going to be dead by 34. My hair is white. I've made it way past 34. But I thought, I'm really in conflict about this, and I don't really feel like being dead at 34. So I have a need to know as many things as I can to navigate my way through this. Or when I was a little bit older than that, I was in the process of getting divorced. I needed to know, how do I navigate through this? Or when I was working on, I'm very bad with math, but I was doing some research on rhesus macaque monkeys that had been filmed in Puerto Rico, and I had to learn statistics. So I had to kind of learn it in a different way than other people learned it so I could grasp it. But I had a need to know it to the extent where I got myself through learning it. So a time in your life when you had a need to know something and you learned it. Question one. And question two, what are the roles, not the jobs, that you have enjoyed the most in your life? And that could be being a coach, being a parent, doing stand-up, being a comedian, being a dancer, doing cartwheels, taming lions. I mean, whatever your particular thing is that you just love doing. So, okay? 2 questions. Go ahead.
What are you like of this?
Round table. 5 years. Now it's not bad.
Thank you very much. One of the ways you can always measure how your TC is doing, if you're working in a TC, is during the course of a week or a month, how many times people come to you on behalf of someone else. Because a lot of times in the TC, people will come to you on behalf of themselves. I need, I want, I wish, can you please for me, and so forth. And it's a wise, I found it very useful to just keep some notes on my desk or in my pocket if I'm not at a desk, which is I'm usually not at a desk. And I just write down, as I go through the week or the month, who comes to me on behalf of somebody else. And the more people that come on behalf of someone else, the more mature your community is getting. And then you'll take in a whole bunch of brand new people, and the cycle starts all over again. But it's a good thing to talk about and to think about, because it means that there's growth. Somebody says, hey, we had visiting, we had families come, and you know that Herman never has had a visit in 90 days, and I'm worried about him, what can we do? Things like that. Those are measurements of the texture of your community.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And
I was just going to say, one of the things, a number of graduation ceremonies I've been to, and you hear someone say, most of all, I would like to thank my key worker. And you think, no, they've not got it. I want to hear people say, most of all, I want to thank my peers.
sure.
That's community.
Yeah. I'd like you to think about a time in your life where you really extended yourself to somebody. It can be within the context of the therapeutic community or not. It can be an experience that you had in school or not. It can be an experience on a sports team, in a church. It can be an experience of walking down the street and helping a stranger. Any experience in your life where you extended yourself to another person and you feel proud of what you did. You felt there was dignity in it. You felt proud of it. And it can be something over a very long period of time. Or it could just be some gesture of humanity where you felt motivated to extend yourself. Maybe it was for 3 minutes, but you walked away and you felt that was the right thing to do. I'm so glad that I did that. So if you would feel, to the degree that you're comfortable, share with your partner a time in your life that you extended yourself to another person and you felt you feel proud of it and there was dignity in that exchange. one of the things that we forget oftentimes in the therapeutic community, because we focus, we're working so hard and addiction and this and that, is to remind ourselves to ask people what are all the things that they're proud of and what are their gifts and that they can bring to the world, and what are the times in their lives that someone has genuinely thanked them. Because when somebody, being thanked by somebody is a very human thing. The minute somebody really says thank you, they're opening themselves to you and you are in turn open to them. So a time in your life that you extended yourself to another person and you feel proud of it, you feel good about having done that. And it can be 3 minutes or it can be 20 years, just something that you felt, I can stand on that. That was the human thing to do.